Thank you for joining us as we explore Amplify's digital resources and provide guidance around getting started with instruction. We understand the delay of materials at the start of the school year is a challenge, so we have developed guidance for you to help you get started with instruction starting day one of the school year. Our Amplify team has created a guide for you outlining the physical materials that will be necessary for each lesson of your first unit. By the end of our time together, we hope you feel comfortable and confident in the digital resources you have available to you and the guidance we can provide to ensure you have everything you need to get started with instruction. We appreciate your patience and understanding while we work to deliver these materials to you as soon as possible and are excited for you to begin instruction utilizing our digital materials. During our time together today, we are going to discuss Amplify's recommendations on printing material and digital recommendations when we may suggest to project over print. We also will discuss implementation guidance so you not only know how to access the digital materials, but also how you will use the materials for your instruction in your classroom. And lastly, we will do our very best to make sure we are clear on what we recommend you print, how many copies you should print, whether you're printing for the entire class or just one copy per student, and times that it is not recommended to print, and how you can utilize the digital resources. If you are a 5th grade teacher or a leader who supports 5th grade teachers, you are in the right place. To get started, let's take a look at 5th grade Unit 1. For the first unit in 5th grade, which is personal narratives, you only need 3 materials to provide instruction: your teacher guide, the student activity book, and the student reader. Let's take a look at some of our material guidance to see how you can prepare these materials. For your teacher materials, our recommendation is to use the teacher guide as a digital resource. You can have it pulled up on your computer, an iPad, a smartphone, and use it digitally versus printing. You do have the option to download and print if you choose to do so. If you would like to print, we'd highly recommend only printing out the actual daily lessons versus the entire guide, as our teacher guides are very lengthy documents. For your student activity books, we do recommend printing 1 copy of the activity book pages needed for your daily lesson for every student in your class. These activity book pages are used during class and also for some take-home work. In grade 5, you do have a student reader or an anthology. That anthology is something that you're using for daily instruction, as it includes all of the reading and all of the chapters that accompany that units of instruction. You can find those student readers for most units on the teacher resource site. However, when we navigate to the site today, you're going to notice for grade 5, unit 1, it's not there yet. Please be on the lookout, as it will be posted for you by Monday, August 8th. We do recommend printing a student reader out for students to have in hand. Again, that's that chapter reader that accompanies the unit of instruction. If you choose not to print the reader, you can project the reader for the class to see and use it together in more of a whole group reading style. If you do choose to project, remember, this is temporary until you have your physical student readers. You will also see that you have digital components that we will preview when we navigate to the teacher resource site that are used at different points of lessons for instruction. Now let's take a look at your Unit 1, Lesson 1. You'll see we've included your Lesson at a Glance, which is a very helpful resource for daily planning. As you begin to think about instructional implementation, the material column will be especially helpful. This section of the Lesson at a Glance will provide you with physical materials needed to execute the lesson. You'll see in Lesson 1 there are only 2 main materials you need to utilize all of the resources for your students. You would need activity book pages printed and then access to the digital components that you would project in your class. This will vary from lesson to lesson, but your materials will always be called out here at the Lesson at a Glance table. As a reminder, this is a really helpful place for you to plan daily lessons, and also as you're beginning to think about how to organize your materials, both physical print and digital. Now that we've talked about the unit level and the lesson level materials, let's navigate to the teacher resource site to make sure we know where to find the materials needed and how we can access them for instructional purposes. As you can see, I have landed on my home page and I'm going to navigate to fifth grade here for our purposes, for all of our fifth grade teachers. And you'll see that there's a lot of things here that I can start with. We're going to focus at the Unit 1 level since that's what we have focused on today, and that's where you're starting your instruction. You'll see you do have access to all of your units here, as well as planning documents and other resources. You'll also see that you can toggle between English or Spanish. So depending what language you're providing instruction in, you have access to both English and Spanish right from your fifth grade teacher homepage. So you can see it's just a click of a toggle to go back and forth between English and Spanish. So let's navigate to Unit 1, since that's what we are focused on to get us started for our school year. And let's first take a look at the teacher guide. So the teacher guide is listed first here. It is accessible digitally. You can access it just as this, as a resource, as a digital resource. You can download, you can also print. Remember, this is accessed digitally, and we are recommending that you can access this as a digital resource for planning, preparation, and daily instruction. However, if you choose to print, you have that option to do so. And let's just take a look at some of the resources that may not be necessary to print to get started with instruction if you're thinking about printing the teacher guide. The last thing I would do is go here and click print, and then I'm printing almost 300 pages. A lot of the pages would not be necessary to print. However, they will be necessary to preview before you start instruction. So there's great resources in the front matter of your teacher guide, that unit introduction, the table of contents, there's cursive writing program information. All of this is really important. Again, you absolutely should read in order to be prepared to start Unit 1. It's not necessary to print all of it, knowing that your teacher guides are on their way. If I were planning for instruction, we would definitely start at the table of contents. I'm looking to see that it looks like really almost the first 20 pages is all that front matter we just talked about, the introduction, the cursive writing program, and actually lesson 1 starts on page 20. So I always use my page number navigation to help me not have to sift through and scroll through. And so I would come over here to my left-hand side and see that lesson 1 starts roughly on the digital side around page 27, print side page 20. And I would come to lesson 1 because this is where I'm starting my instruction. And if I were printing, I would print lesson 1. Or potentially, I might print the first weeks of lessons, so the first 5 lessons. But that would be totally up to you as you're starting to think about how you want to navigate your digital teacher guide resources as you're planning instruction. Let's go back to our homepage for 5th grade and let's take a look at the activity book. So that student activity book is a digital resource, but we are suggesting that students have the physical copies of the student activity book pages. So like the teacher guide, there is some front matter. There's about 4 or 5 pages of front matter that wouldn't need to be printed. So I wouldn't need to go over here and hit print for the entire file necessarily. But what I would be doing is I'd be looking at, in our digital file starting at page 6, the activity book pages that would be needed for lesson 1. So I know there are 4 different activity book pages that are needed: 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, and 1.4. And so for me, I'd be printing all of my lesson 1 pages to make sure that all of my students had a copy. And I might actually think I'm going to print the first weeks of activity book pages so that way my students have that. I could print them, I could bind them with a staple, I could make sure that they were organized in a folder or in a clear pocket folder so that way we could keep them nice and neat and tidy and organized so students have ease of access for them at point of use in the lesson. The other thing I want to show you is that digital components in Unit 1 and actually starting at lesson 1, we do use 2 different projections. And again, this is always a digital file. It will not come to you in a physical material or a hard copy. So this is a resource that you would be projecting to your class at point of use of instruction. Sometimes information around guidance around a particular skill that you're working on. Here, talking about paragraph writing, and then oftentimes resources that you would be sharing that accompany your lesson. So for lesson one, we have the first camping trip projection, and then also a part of a passage that would be projected. Again, digital materials available at point of use connected to that lesson within the particular lessons within your units. And then the last thing I wanted just to mention again is about that student reader anthology. So right now you see that we've got some reader information here that will direct you to information that shows you and tells you a little bit about why you don't see the digital resource of the reader. And that's just yet. It's coming, and you will see it when you log in starting as early as next week, potentially earlier as well. But most units do include that digital student reader, and we will be adding Unit 1, that personal narrative student anthology student reader there, because we know that you need that reader in order to successfully execute daily instruction within Unit 1. So it will be found here under your material section, along with your teacher guides and activity books and any other materials you may need. And you can decide how you would like to utilize it. It is going to be digital, so you can project it if you're looking at using the reader for a whole group purpose. It will also be downloadable and printable, and so you will be able to print it if you're looking to print individual chapters, or maybe an individual reader for each student, or looking at maybe the first week of chapters that students would need. Totally up to you. But it will be available for you, and you will have access to it to start your first day of instruction. So as we think about planning for your first unit in 5th grade, we wanted to leave you with just a few reminders. All of your materials that you need are available digitally. Our resources are available on the teacher resource site, just as you've seen us walk through today, including that student reader anthology that will be added for your use to successfully start your first unit of instruction in 5th grade. Materials can be downloaded, they can be printed, they can be projected. We really wanted to make sure that you have options based off of your individual needs as you're planning and prepping for your first unit of instruction, as well as thinking about your individual student needs. What do they need in order to be successful? That at-a-glance table provides a quick overview of your daily lessons. This really is a go-to resource for daily lesson planning. It will help you with timing, it will help you with lesson components and segments of lessons, it will help you with student grouping, and overall currently planning your use of materials, physical materials, digital materials, and materials that you may need to print. We referenced a material guide for the first unit of instruction, which gives you lesson by lesson guidance around your first 15 days of lessons, or that first unit of instruction. This tool was created to help you take the guesswork out of what you need in order to plan for successful instruction during the first few weeks of school. And we will follow up with you to make sure that you have access to this guidance from this document. The last, and just a friendly reminder and a parting words to you all, is that you can do this, and we're here to help you. We are in your corner and are really looking forward to an amazing school year ahead. And at the end of this, you may still have questions or think of something that you'd like to follow up on. Here's where you can turn next. We have an amazing website specific to Amplify Texas, available for you at texas.amplify.com. At this site, there are help articles, on-demand professional learning resources, and other great tools to help you be planned and prepared for using Amplify Texas K-5 ELAR/SLAR. If you need to reach out, you can do so in a variety of ways. Contact us via email, live chat from the teacher resource site, or you can reach us through our toll-free number to talk to one of our amazing educational support team members. In closing, we'd like to once again say thank you. Thank you for your patience, thank you for your understanding, and thank you for all you do to ensure that your students are successful each and every day. We are in your corner and will continue to provide ongoing support in the days to come as you begin your school year and as your materials begin to arrive on your campus. We look forward to hearing and seeing your successes and your victories. Thank you for your partnership and have a wonderful start to this 2022 school year.